I thought it was going to be a normal day, like any other day, sitting at home, slapping peanut butter on my dick, watching Hotel Mario, Zelda CDI, Dr. Rabbit, Captain N, YouTube poops. Yeah, back in 2006 to 2009 when this stuff was king. You know, I was just dumping Hotel Mario's source for future uses. Okay, fine, I admit I have a toast fetish. Are you happy? That and the Rolling Stones references really turned me on. But I never, expected that I'd find something even more shocking and disturbing than my own sexuality. One of the files that was dumped was a level, the 13th Hotel, and it had a unique cutscene. You know, as a proud Catholic father, I try to avoid doing things like walking underneath ladders and passing black cats and, those jack-o'-lanterns. You never know if there's a candle or some sort of, I don't know, illegal substance inside of them lighting them up. But 13, whatever. I was so excited to test it. I'm not going to say it was an emulator. You shouldn't use those, but let's just say I used my Philips CDI and somehow played it the quickest I possibly could. Although I'm rambling now. The opening cutscene began. It was the original intro, except Mario was shockingly alone. Nope, it wasn't that simple. No, there was some really creepy music in the background, kind of like it was in G major. The next scene was the place where Bowser was supposed to pop up and go, oh, because, he was laughing at the Mario Brothers futility or some shit. Not that he knows what they do in the bedroom with Princess Peach. I'm assuming they're in the same room together with Peach. Whatever, moving on. The next scene, with the Bowser thing, it wasn't there. I felt ripped off. That scene to me was the reason that I wake up in the morning, and it was gone. I climaxed during that scene. Instead, his right hand was still over the rock, but it was bleeding. Oh, maybe they just had red paint for Mario's hat and shirt, and it spilled over to the rock. In his place, there was what looked like a huge stack of metal, but there was blood all over it. Had someone failed to create a cyborg? I was utterly scared at this point. That shouldn't be in the Hotel Mario video game that I knew and loved ever since I was young and forced my parents to buy me a Philips CDI with the money that should have gone to our mortgage. I mean, we ended up having to move to the projects in a rundown apartment that was boarded up. The word condemned was on it, but just so I could get a CDI. Let's move on. The next scene was the place where Mario and Luigi walked talking about a picnic. Nice of the princess to invite us over for a picnic, eh, Luigi? But that wasn't there. Not even Mario was there this time. That huge red mushroom that was supposed to be there? Broken. And there was blood on it. Mushrooms don't bleed. Maybe it was a toad. Maybe it was a toad disguised as a regular old mushroom. The sky was gray, and I don't mean cloudy with a chance of meatballs. Mario reached the front door of the supposed Koopa Resort, but the board was blank with huge marks of claws and more blood. I was beginning to wonder if maybe Princess Peach had spilled some ketchup or tomato juice that was supposed to be for the picnic. Mario didn't say anything. He just picked up the letter. The next scene was really unsettling. It was Mario in close-up reading the letter. Or at least he was trying to. I don't know how to read, Super Mario said. What a friggin' what? Mario could read. His eyes were completely void, and the sky had changed into a swirling, ominous redness. Mario was talking in kind of a demonic voice, except what he was reading was the Wikipedia page for how to make French toast. This didn't make any sense at all. In the next scene, I was even more shocked, however, if such a thing was possible. He looked at Luigi, who was dead in an iron stack, and some glitchy noises could be heard. Mario kept looking at Luigi with an amused glare at the eyes for around 8 seconds. There was nothing Luigi joking, amusing about gay Luigi being dead in an iron stack. And why iron? Why metal? Was this a reference to how heavy metal had its way and whatever tried to destroy the metal couldn't defeat the metal? Was this a Jack Black reference in a Hotel Mario video game? But that's not possible because Jack Black came later. The next scene was the condemned board, just like the one from my rundown apartment in the projects, because my mom and dad had to buy me a Philips CDI. But instead it was written, "You are condemned." Okay, that pissed me off. I was not condemned. I went to Catholic church every Sunday. That meant I'm perfect. Okay? There were claw marks and lots of blood around the bricks and over the soil. Mario came up faceless with white and black clothes as if he was mourning a dead person, like Toad, maybe Toad from earlier, bleeding and stuff. And he was holding the bread box that usually says Bowser's Sourpuss Bread, but instead it was blank, as if the joke was so bad they didn't want to tell it anymore. The background was that of Mick Jagger with puffed out lips as if he'd been stung by 1,000 bees. 2 messages blinked in a frame in the bread box. 13th hotel is condemned. And we gotta. We gotta what? Help the princess? That's what they were supposed to say. Maybe the voice actors were on strike. The next scene was the princess waving over the pipe, but she just kept doing that in loop, with the scene blinking at times. And suddenly she disappeared, and there were blood, guts, and organs and entrails slivered all over that pipe. Princess Peach was clearly dead. For no good reason. Mario came up with a messed up crimson red blood hue. Hellish. Static was playing in the background, and there were more demonic talking in whispers. He said something about 9/11 was an inside job, Luigi. And chicken sandwich for only 89 cents? What the hell did that have to do with anything? Then Ludwig's ruined castle from the game just suddenly appeared. The castle looked like it was abandoned with mist around it. Mario appeared again and pointed up like in the final frame of the intro, but his eyes were voided again. And the background was different. It was all the toasters from the part later in the game all just going off, and instead of just shooting off toast, I saw some waffles and, to my shock and horror, jars of Aunt Jemima's original syrup. This was clearly glitching up. For a short moment, Mario had red pupils and he was facing me, the player viewer person. The next scene, Mario walked like in the toast cutscene. It was completely black, as if all the toast had been burnt. And And in addition to that, there was the dead Luigi, but he had a smile on his face and his eyes had X's over them. Mario just stayed like that for a few seconds, and then a close-up of Mario appeared. His voided eyes had blood dripping from them, and his right eye was hanging out of his socket, and there was a knife in his chest, which also had blood dripping from where he was stabbed. A demonic voice said, "Get off of my cloud, Bowser." And static came up. Fortunately, my game froze. Then it unfroze in the scene where Mario says, "Maybe that'll keep the Lizard King from opening the doors," which is obviously a really shitty joke about Jim Morrison being the Lizard King and his band The Doors. It kept playing again and again, except it was upside down, and Mario's voice was that from Link from the Zelda CDI games. "That ought to keep the Lizard King from opening the doors. Gee." At that point, I just popped the game out of my CDI and I said a Catholic ritual and I set the disc on fire. Some years passed since then, and I've had several children, and I won't allow them to play the CDI under any circumstance. Instead, they just play Among Us. And you know what? I don't care how sus it is, and I don't care that it's full of red sus, because as far as I know, the red isn't blood. So I'm okay with that. Sus.